It's wild how a little handheld like the PSP managed to deliver so many heavy-hitting RPGs. We're talking big stories, deep combat and style for days, all packed into your pocket. Whether you missed these games back then or just want to relive the magic, this list is pure fire from start to finish. The third birthday tried to bring back the Parasite Eve franchise with a fresh twist, but it ended up splitting opinions hard. It kept a few familiar faces and some core elements, but instead of the slower, tense pacing and tactical combat that defined the first two games, this one went full speed into flashy gunplay, body-swapping mechanics, and over-the-top boss fights. Part of what pushed the game in this new direction came down to a legal headache, as the original Parasite Eve was based on a Japanese sci-fi novel. And over time, the rights to that story got complicated. So instead of a direct sequel grounded in the same world and lore, they rebranded the project into something looser, more spiritual successor than true continuation. The story takes place in a chaotic version of New York City, torn apart by these twisted creatures called the Twisted. Yeah, really subtle. Aya Bria, the series' returning protagonist, wakes up with no memory of the past and suddenly finds herself part of a government task force, armed with a mysterious new power that lets her jump into other people's bodies. This mechanic, called Overdrive, is the heart of the combat. You're constantly switching between soldiers on the battlefield, teleporting into their bodies to reposition, dodge attacks, or get the jump on enemies. So you're not just controlling Aya, you're playing as an entire squad, using her power to leap between allies and control the flow of battle. Mix that with cover-based shooting, big cinematic set pieces, and some flashy special attacks. And you've got a system that feels more like an action game than a traditional RPG, but still tries to give you a tactical edge. Still, for better or worse, it gave the series one last pulse of life before everything went quiet again. No sequels, no remakes, just a strange send-off that left fans hoping one day the franchise might rise again, properly. After Phantasy Star 4, the series took a sharp turn away from classic turn-based battles and dove into real-time action with games like Phantasy Star Online and Phantasy Star Universe. Phantasy Star Portable follows in that same direction, adapting the flashy, fast-paced combat and sci-fi atmosphere of Universe into a surprisingly smooth handheld experience. The story picks up a few years after the events of Phantasy Star Universe, putting you in the boots of a new Guardian recruit working under Vivienne, an android with a lot more personality than you'd expect. The narrative leans heavily into the usual mix of space politics, ancient technology, and the constant threat of the seed infection spreading across the galaxy. And even if you didn't play Universe, the game gives you just enough to catch up, but longtime fans will definitely catch a few nods and returning faces along the way. Combat feels fast, snappy, and way more action-focused than the older, turn-based Phantasy Star entries. You control your character in real time, dodging, blocking, and pulling off combos with melee weapons, guns, or tech-based attacks depending on your class setup. It's got that satisfying loop of chaining hits, swapping weapons on the fly, and managing your photon arts to deal heavy damage. And the customization is deep too, as you're not just locked into one style. The more you use a weapon type or ability, the stronger it becomes, letting you build your own combat rhythm as you go. It even had multiplayer, which felt huge back then. And this was one of the titles that proved that the PSP could handle full-on action RPGs with co-op fun. It never got ported, never left the system, and yeah, it's still stuck there. But for anyone who actually played it, Phantasy Star Portable was a legit reason to keep your PSP charged.
As always,
Wild Arms XF ditched the traditional turn-based combat the series was known for and went full tactical, and honestly, it was the right move. Built from the ground up for the PSP, This game nails that gritty Western vibe the franchise always played with. But now it throws you into grid-based battles that are surprisingly deep and super satisfying. XF is a standalone tale, so you don't need to know anything about the past Wild Arms games to get into it. But it still keeps the series' signature mix of frontier-style settings, ancient tech, and themes of survival and sacrifice. The combat system is all about positioning, timing, and using the terrain to your advantage. Elevation plays a big role, with height giving you bonuses or making you an easy target if you're not careful. Each character fits into specific classes, and those classes come with unique skills that open up all kinds of strategies, from blocking key choke points to setting traps or launching long-range attacks. And instead of sticking with one path, you can unlock and swap between different roles by fulfilling specific requirements, which makes every battle feel like a chance to grow your team in new ways. One of the coolest mechanics in Wild Arms XF is how missions aren't just about wiping out enemies. You'll often deal with complex objectives like defending specific units, escaping ambushes, or managing multi-phase battles where the map shifts mid-fight. This keeps things from getting repetitive and forces you to constantly rethink your approach. It's not just a lazy spin-off, it's a smart, well-crafted entry that understands how to use the handheld's strengths. If you're into tactical RPGs and want something with a unique setting and great design choices, this one deserves your time. X-Men Legends 2 hit the PSP like a punch straight out of the comics. While the first game skipped the handheld entirely, the sequel came in hot with a version that didn't just hold its own, it matched the home consoles in gameplay and visuals, even bringing exclusive extras to the table. Developed by Raven Software, this action RPG lets you control a massive roster of heroes and villains, mixing real-time combat with light RPG mechanics in a way that feels chaotic and incredibly fun. The story picks up with the X-Men and the Brotherhood forming an uneasy alliance to stop Apocalypse. And yeah, the plot's actually way more engaging than the first game. With more characters, more variety, and a tone that fits perfectly with fans of X-Men '97, this one hits all the right notes. Each mission drops you into an arena-style map where you control a team of 4 characters, swapping between them on the fly. Every hero has their own set of special abilities, and pulling off combos or chaining powers between teammates feels super satisfying. You can level up skills, assign points, and customize builds depending on your playstyle. Whether you're blasting enemies with Cyclops' optic beam or smashing through crowds with Juggernaut, the action always keeps you moving, and the pacing never drags. One of the coolest features is how the game lets you experiment with different team combinations to unlock bonus passive effects. Building a squad of just X-Men, just villains, or sticking to specific themes like mutants with healing powers or energy blasts gives you unique buffs in combat. It's a small system, but it adds a layer of strategy that makes messing around with a roster way more rewarding than just picking your favorite characters and jumping in. If you're enjoying the trip down PSP memory lane, go ahead and slap that like button. Gently though, it's got feelings. Also, let me know in the comments. What other RPG do you think needs to be on this list? I'm always hunting for new suggestions to play and maybe include in future parts. Your comments seriously help the algorithm and keep this channel alive with fresh content. And yeah, I actually check and reply to every single one. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's your chance. It costs nothing and might even make your backlog feel slightly less guilty.
Will humanity perish, or will it cling on to yet another?
Zeti Hero Project is one of those games that flew way under the radar but deserves way more love. Made by the same wild minds behind the Disgaea series, this game cranks up the tokusatsu vibes. Think Power Rangers meets ridiculous dungeon-crawling chaos. The story kicks off with the world's greatest hero dying in the first 5 minutes. So, who steps up to save the day? Some random dude walking down the street who suddenly gets thrown into a battle he's nowhere near ready for. From there, it's a wild journey of training, failing, leveling up, and slowly becoming the unlosing ranger the world actually needs. It's goofy, self-aware, and somehow manages to mix parody and heartfelt moments in a way that totally works. Gameplay-wise, ZHP mixes turn-based movement with roguelike mechanics, meaning every dungeon is randomly generated and every death sends you back to square one, but not empty-handed. Your character keeps getting stronger with each run, unlocking new skills and equipment that actually carry over. What really makes the progression system shine is how absurdly customizable everything is. You can equip random objects as gear, like traffic cones or cardboard boxes, and they actually impact your stats. Weapons and armor aren't just cosmetic. They boost your abilities and can be upgraded or combined in your base to create even stronger setups. Your character's body parts level up individually too, so you can build insane combos like tank legs with ninja speed. Outside the dungeons, you've got your home base, which actually plays a big role in how you prepare for each run. Here, you can manage upgrades, craft new gear, and interact with some of the most bizarre NPCs ever put in a game. We're talking talking dogs, over-the-top mentors, and shopkeepers with wild backstories. Everything feels like it was designed to make you laugh, but also help you survive just a little longer. When people talk about Kingdom Hearts, they usually bring up the mainline titles on PlayStation. But back in 2010, the PSP quietly dropped what many fans still consider one of the best entries in the entire franchise, Birth by Sleep. It wasn't some side project with cut corners. This was a full-blown Kingdom Hearts experience with incredible visuals, 3 different protagonists, and a storyline that hit just as hard as the big console releases. It pushed the PSP to its limits and honestly looked more like a PlayStation 2 game than something on a handheld. The story takes place years before Sora ever picked up a Keyblade, and it's basically the origin point for a lot of the chaos that unravels later in the series. You follow Terra, Aqua, and Ventus, 3 Keyblade wielders training under Master Eric's, as they get pulled into a conflict involving mysterious disappearances, dark forces, and the growing threat of Xehanort. Even though it's a prequel, Birth by Sleep adds real depth to the entire Kingdom Hearts timeline and helps explain a lot of what comes later. If you've played the main games, this one fills in some serious blanks. Combat in Birth by Sleep is fast, flashy, and way more customizable than you'd expect from a handheld title. Instead of relying on traditional menus, the game uses a command deck system where you build your own set of abilities, mixing magic, attacks, and special moves that level up as you fight. You can even fuse them to unlock stronger versions, which makes experimenting super rewarding. Each character plays differently too, so the gameplay feels fresh across all 3 campaigns. Years later, it got remastered in modern collections, and yeah, those versions might be smoother to play today, but even on the original hardware, Birth by Sleep was nothing short of impressive. Whether you're here for the combat, the lore, or just to see where it all began for characters like Terra, Aqua, and Ventus, this game is essential for any real fan of the series. Before Persona blew up with slick anime cutscenes and social sim mechanics, it was something way darker and way weirder. The PSP version of the first Persona takes everything that went wrong in the original US release, like bad localization, missing content, awful box art, and actually fixes it. This is the definitive way to experience how it all started. This game is old school in every sense. It's a hardcore dungeon crawler, with first-person exploration and a vibe that feels closer to Shin Megami Tensei than the flashy style fans know from Persona 5. The story kicks off with a group of high school students messing around with a ritual called Persona just for fun. But things go sideways fast when a supernatural event hits their city and demons invade. What starts as a joke turns into a full-on survival mission, and the crew ends up diving deep into a twisted version of their world to figure out what the hell is going on. Combat plays out in a turn-based system, where each character can equip different personas, giving them access to unique spells, resistances, and stats. Positioning actually matters during fights, as you've got a grid setup, where range, direction, and formation can totally change how battles go. There's also a negotiation system, where you can talk to demons instead of fighting them. And if you say the right things, they might hand over items or even join your team. One cool thing about this version is the inclusion of the Snow Queen quest, a whole side storyline that was cut from the original Western release. It adds new dungeons, bosses, and a totally different vibe compared to the main story. It's more mysterious, more mythological, and honestly feels like a secret bonus game hidden inside the main one. If you're into digging deeper and seeing everything this title has to offer, the Snow Queen route is where things get really interesting.
Live is valid manly. Fear and self-consciousness. I'm just lonely. Cleveland other color.
I'm looking for an Yvonne Hardens.
Some games show up, do their thing, and vanish before most people even realize they existed. That's exactly what happened with Valkyria Chronicles 2. While the first and fourth games made waves on home consoles, this sequel dropped quietly on the PSP, and honestly, it's way better than you'd expect from a handheld release. The game picks up after the original's story, but trades the grim tone for a more school-based military setting, mixing serious war themes with a younger cast. Don't let that throw you off, though. The tactical gameplay is still sharp, layered, and incredibly satisfying. And instead of just moving units on a grid like a typical strategy RPG, you take direct control of each soldier in real time during their turn. You aim, shoot, and even take cover manually. Also, enemies can react during your movement, so rushing in without thinking usually ends badly. The battlefield is split into multiple interconnected zones, and switching between them adds a layer of planning that keeps things interesting. And every class has a clear purpose, like shock troopers for close range, snipers for picking off enemies from a distance, engineers to keep your team running, and you'll need to balance your squad carefully to handle different mission types. On top of that, the game gives you tons of freedom to upgrade and customize your squad. Each class can branch into different specialties as you level up, letting you shape your units based on how you like to play. Maybe you want a scout with better armor or a lancer that hits harder but moves slower. Plus, with so many characters to recruit, it's easy to build a team that feels like your own, not just a set of presets. Visually, it's one of the best-looking games on the PSP, and it keeps that signature watercolor style the series is known for. It's a dense, strategic experience that proves the PSP could absolutely handle big, ambitious games when developers went all in.
邪魔ですわ。当然ですわ。
When God Eater dropped on the PSP, it felt like someone finally looked at Monster Hunter and said, "Cool idea, but let's actually give it a story." The game hit right when Monster Hunter fever was peaking on portables, but instead of just chasing monsters for loot, God Eater threw you into a post-apocalyptic world with real stakes, full of stylish characters, intense anime energy, and a fast-paced combat system that didn't mess around. Humanity's on the brink after mysterious creatures called origami start tearing the world apart. Regular weapons don't do a thing against them, so scientists develop God Arcs, living weapons fused with oracle cells that only special soldiers, the God Eaters, can handle. Combat in God Eater is all about speed and flexibility. You're constantly switching between melee and ranged modes with your God Arc, which transforms mid-fight, slashing up close, dodging giant attacks, then pulling back to blast enemies from a distance. It's all seamless and super satisfying. You also have Devour attacks, which let you absorb energy from origami and trigger burst mode, giving you stat boosts and special abilities for a limited time. And you're not just picking a weapon and jumping into missions, you're crafting and upgrading God Arcs with materials you get from fights, fine-tuning bullets with different effects, and building loadouts that actually match your playstyle. Plus, as you progress and unlock new skills, you can tweak your character's abilities to fit how you like to play, whether that's going full offense, support, or somewhere in between. It became a surprise hit, especially in Japan, and even got an anime adaptation down the line. Over time, it earned remasters and sequels across other platforms, but that original PSP release is where everything started. and it still holds up as a wild and stylish ride through a world on the edge.
How nostalgic.
Valkyrie Profile Lenneth is one of those rare cases where a port actually outshines the original. Yeah, it started on the PlayStation 1, but the PSP version is tighter, cleaner, and loaded with extras that make it feel like the definitive way to play. Developed by Tri-Ace, the same studio behind Star Ocean, this version brings out everything that made the original special, but with way more polish. From its gorgeous 2D art to that haunting soundtrack and deep combo-based combat, Lenneth hits hard from start to finish. The story kicks off with Lenneth, a Valkyrie sent by Odin to recruit fallen warriors for the coming war in Asgard. But it doesn't take long before things get personal. As she travels through Midgard collecting souls, fragments of her past start to surface, hinting that there's way more to her mission than just divine duty. Combat in Lenneth feels more like a rhythm game than a traditional RPG. Each party member is mapped to a different face button, and timing your attacks just right can trigger flashy combos and powerful finishers. There's a real sense of flow to it. You're not just spamming commands, you're linking hits, juggling enemies in midair, and watching your team tear through mobs with style. But what really sets it apart is the unique way it blends exploration with time management. You're not just wandering from town to dungeon, you're choosing how to spend each precious moment before Ragnarok hits. Every action you take pushes the clock forward, whether it's recruiting Einherjar, diving into a ruin, or preparing souls for the final battle. It adds a real sense of urgency and purpose to everything you do, and it's something you don't see often in most RPGs. Even though it later got a remaster on PlayStation 4 and 5, let's be real. It's mostly a glossy upscale of what the PSP already nailed. This handheld version holds up ridiculously well and still delivers one of the most unforgettable RPG experiences you can have on the go.
Secret Javelin.
If you think I missed a game or just want even more picks, check out part 1 of this list. It should be popping up on your screen right about now. And seriously, help a fellow gamer out. Hit subscribe and drop a comment before your battery runs out again.